Well, hello everyone. Today we're going to be doing a 6-month review of this solar system that I installed about 6 months ago. All right, let's start with the solar array. 6 months, still standing where it is, no issues whatsoever, producing, as much as it can, depending on the time of the year. The panels are kind of nasty. Bunch of bird crap on them. Leaves are started falling down, and of course, let's go behind and take a look and see how the wires are holding up and everything else underneath. So here we go. So upon inspection, everything looks fine, just as I left it 6 months ago. I don't see any issues. Grounding system is still holding up. All the wires are holding up. Man, look at that big spider up there. I don't really bother them. They kill mosquitoes and whatnot. That is one big sucker, though. Check it out. Alright, so we got a bunch of spider webs. Spiders everywhere. Everything's holding up. And it's working correctly. So here we are at my weatherheads. No issues whatsoever with the wires or anything else, since everything is made out of plastic. So that's it. That is what we have. So solar array is working fine. We will look at the numbers later. Create a ton of power and wasted a lot of power too, especially in about last 10 days, since the AC was not working as hard as it did during the summer. But we'll come to that. Here we are. You guys know that I did a lot of I updated my home, did the siding and the windows, and of course, and here on the side you can see my equipment. Everything is still working properly. Nothing is wrong. Everything is operating properly. Let's go inside and look at inverters. So here we are at the inverters. Today is a one bad day for solar production. I think I have only made about 27 kilowatt hours. But however, the inverters are just fine and operating properly. Now, I'm not going to go into details again about these inverters. Please see the part 1 in regards to it. However, I'm going to show you the filters, which I think are needed, and they should not be, they should not be this nasty. They're nasty because I did a lot of construction throughout the garage when I was working on the house, so we do have a lot of dust in them, and they will be cleaned here shortly. You have seen the rest of the setup, integrating these inverters into Home Assistant. And now we'll go ahead and talk about inverters themselves. Alright guys, here are my production numbers for the last 6 months. Actually for the whole year if you just consider the grid. So for the last 6 months, April through September, the solar array has produced 6.7 megawatt hours of DC energy. From a grid, in the last 6 months, I have used 1,472 kilowatt hours, or 1.5 megawatt hours of energy. We'll come in and I'll explain that. But mostly it's due to EV, okay, electric vehicle. Total for the year so far, all right, AC energy and a DC energy. I'm not going to make a separation between them and calculate the efficiency and all of that. This is the energy that was produced. Okay, and this is the energy that was produced from the sun, and that's what it was used, and also the energy used from the grid. And I just combined AC and DC together, and it is so far 11 megawatt hours. Solar numbers, they don't look as high as they should be. You guys are right. I'll tell you that right now. I am not achieving my maximum potential. I can produce a whole lot more than I did here in May of 2020, which was 1,293 kilowatt hours. I can produce more than that. My problem is lack of storage. 53 kilowatt hours is not enough storage. I wish I have at least another 20 kilowatt hours that I could store energy into, because in this period of 6 months there was a lot of days that went to waste. The batteries would be full by 2:33 p.m. and then from 3 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. there's nothing going on, because the air conditioning would use it. I would charge a car and all of that. Now, when do I get into trouble? I got into trouble at the end of July, after posting those videos as am I going to make it off grid. Now, for off grid, I was off grid for total of 115 days. On July, I think it was a July 12, 13 is when I passed I passed the inspection, and Georgia Power came back and hooked everything back up. Now, 570 kilowatt hours from the middle of July to about September 20th. I don't think that I ever in my life experienced such weather in the state of Georgia. Guys, I've been living here since 1995. That is 26 years plus. It will be 27 years in December, because I moved here in December of 1994. I do not think that I have ever experienced weather like that. I mean, we had good days, okay? But in those good days, I didn't have enough storage to store all the energy for the rainy days. Now, would this system be sufficient enough if I didn't have electric vehicle? Yes, it would be totally sufficient. You wouldn't make as much power as I did right here, because I got the car at the end of April, right? I wouldn't make as much power if I didn't have an EV. Then I have July, middle of July through September 20th. It was nothing but a bad weather. It was more bad weather than a good weather. That's why these numbers just look awful. I mean, July is 1168 kilowatt hours. August, 929. August was nothing but the rain. However, for my system, I think with the solar array that I have, I think I need more storage. I'm thinking at least another 20 kilowatt hours would be great. And I think at that point, I could be almost completely off a grid. I think maybe I would need 100, 110, 120 kilowatt hours off the grid. But right now, with electric car, which we used a lot during the July and August, but I started keeping a record over here in September to see how much exactly I'm going to spend on the electric vehicle. I put in 255 kilowatt hours into the Ford Mustang Mach-E. We didn't drive it as much as we did in July and August. That's why these numbers are the way they are. I needed a lot of energy in July, but boy, this is all I could make. And even though with the good days, as I said, not enough storage. So let's go and talk about how do these inverters work in the three separate modes that they have. As we can see here, when the inverters are in battery mode, they will, during the production time of the day, consume only about 4.3 watts from the grid. Okay, now situation is completely different when solar production stops at the end of the day. You continue in the battery, then this number changes to about 180 watts. So in conclusion, they always draw some power. However, during the solar production time, they only use about 4.2 watts. This number goes down as soon as there's not enough light outside. It kind of changes in a sine wave configuration, in a sine wave expression as to how this number goes up and down. Here's a perfect example of this case. Yesterday was October 1st. The solar energy production was at 37.24 kilowatts. I could have produced more. The batteries are fully charged. The car was fully charged, and we didn't really have anywhere to put the energy into. So we only produced 37.24 kilowatt hours. Now, the important number. Grid on line 1 consumed 1.41 kilowatt hours, and a grid on line 2 consumed 1.48 kilowatt hours, which is a grid total of 2.89 kilowatt hours. That means no matter what, while connected to the grid, I think your inverters will use around 3 kilowatt hours. Basically, 3 kilowatt hours is what Georgia Power charges me every day when I don't use grid power at all, because inverters will consume around anywhere between 2.4 to 3 kilowatt hours. But Georgia Power rounds up everything to the highest next number, which is 3 kilowatt hours. That's a very important thing about these inverters. So let's look at the 3 different settings that are available as an output source priority. Okay, the first one that I run most of the time, is SBU. That means the solar will provide will provide power to the loads first. If solar is not enough, it will be a battery, and if battery is not enough, it will switch over to utility. Now we will come back to this later. Now the next setting is USB. In the USB settings, utility will provide power to the loads first. Solar will charge batteries first. If the batteries are completely charged, the solar will also provide the power together with the utility. Even though in the manual it says that utility will provide power to the loads as a first priority. Solar and battery energy will provide power to the loads only when utility power is not available. And the last one we're going to talk about is SUB setting. This setting, solar energy provides power to the load first. If solar energy is not enough, utility will provide the power. Then utility will provide power to the loads. If loads are not high and there's sufficient solar power, it will also charge the battery. So here we are in a solar utility battery mode. Okay, so let's close this, minimize this, and let's see what's going on. Right now I have an AC turned on, and the home load is about 3200 watt. 3.2 kilowatt load. The solar power is only bringing in today 2.3 kilowatts. And the grid is substituting with about 812 watts of power. So, in this case, the battery is not being charged only with 1 amp. That's probably from solar. And the solar is supplementing everything else. Now, in this case, solar is injecting power together with the grid onto the output. My thinking is that inverter gets synced with the grid and sends power over here. I don't think, judging by these numbers, it gets converted into DC and then from a DC back to AC to synchronize. I think the inverters are synchronizing with the grid and injecting it towards the home load. It wouldn't make sense to do this. There will be a lot of power loss. Judging by this and just adding these numbers kind of add together for as to what the home load is right now. So that is one interesting part, which says that, you know, that inverters can synchronize themselves with the grid. And funny thinking behind this is I think if somebody is capable enough to update the firmware, you could possibly be, you know, exporting with grid to the grid even with LV6548s. Look at these numbers, guys. When you add them together, they come up to about this 3.1 kilowatt load from here to here. I don't think the grid gets converted to DC and then from DC back to AC. The numbers would not. It's just, they wouldn't make sense. So my suspicion about these inverter, and I think it's correct, they get synchronized with the grid and then they go to the home load. I don't think this gets converted into DC, as I said before, and I have to repeat it again, unless somebody can prove me wrong. You know, I think inverters synchronize with grid and then provide power to the home load in solar utility battery mode. Alright, so here we are in the utility solar battery mode. Okay, in this mode, let me minimize this. In this mode, utility, the grid will provide power to the loads first. Solar will charge the battery first, and it will include about 500 watts worth of power from a grid to also help charge the batteries while solar is also charging. So as you can see here, 3,500 from solar power, and then there's a total of 4,000 watt charge to the battery. So 4 kilowatt charge to the battery. For whatever reason, these inverters are set up that way, where they, you know, it doesn't matter if you can completely turn off charging to the battery from a grid, it will still send 500 watts to the battery at one point in this mode. So that's a basic premise of how utility solar battery mode works. Okay, once, if let's say I achieve 100% and there's still leftover solar power, the solar power will also help home load. It will help power up whatever it is on the load on the inverters, and a grid will kind of die off in that case. But that's only in case when the battery reaches 100% state of charge, or it's not taking completely what's available from the solar power. So that is one way these inverters work. It's a little bit different than what it states in the manual. So, in a conclusion, one question always remains. If you had the chance to do something else, would you do it? Yes. One thing that I would change definitely was I would have more battery storage. I would make another Powerwall for a total of 4. I think another 20 kilowatt hours is probably what I need to utilize maximum potential of a solar array. Would I buy these inverters again? Definitely. For the power that they provide, which is 26 kilowatt load possible on them at one time, I think you cannot beat it for the price that I paid for them. Yes, I would definitely get these inverters again. But that place down there in the corner is itching for another Powerwall. So we'll see what we can do in that case. But however, winter is coming. We'll see what happens. I think another report on this solar system, not necessarily just on inverters, is warranted once we have a one full complete year of production. I think that will give us the best indication as to what we need to do going in the future. But so far, this has been fun. I liked it. I like this experiment that I did. I like what I installed. Some things, yes, I would definitely change, but not many. I think I would have done a better job with the solar array, but hey, you know, that's something to think about in the future. I'm sure the panels will improve in the next 5 years. So maybe I can talk my wife into getting some new, more high efficient panels. Alright guys, talk to you again. Bye.